Hello Reds, welcome along to All for United.
Hello and welcome to All for United with me, John Foster, MUFC. For the first time ever, we're going to do a 2-hour special tonight. So, as planned, we've got a bit of a match reaction show, Casey Stoney reaction show, season reaction show with all our fans here. And then at 8 o'clock, we've got Emma Sanders from the BBC joining us, 8 till 9. So it's a massive show tonight. And I think Casey Stoney deserves that. So Casey's obviously managed her last match. We saw it yesterday. So loads of things to discuss. Obviously, we'll talk a bit about the Leicester game, but also just a bit about our own emotions and how we feel kind of the season's gone. What's next for Man United? What's next for Casey? Where does this leave transfers? Absolutely anything. This conversation can absolutely go everywhere. So, Natalie, so obviously start off with yourself. We had a bit of a conversation over the phone about, on my way home, a little bit about closure and do we feel any better? Obviously, I'm not going to speak on behalf of you, but me personally, I think after seeing Casey outside the stadium yesterday, I feel a little bit better. I'm not happy with the situation. I don't think I'll ever be happy with the situation. But I think for me as a fan, I just wanted to kind of say goodbye to her, and I've got a nice photo. Well, we all got a nice good photo. What are your thoughts on that one, Nat?
Totally agree. Exactly what it is. It's closure, but it should never have got to this point. I'm really still upset. But yeah, I think meeting a few of the players that are going to be there next year, I'm sure people have seen. If you haven't already, get on the Twitter. Lucy Staniforth came over. We saw Anna Battle. We saw Russo. Just these players that we haven't seen, and players that we haven't seen as well in a long while. You know, I saw Leah smiling, even though we didn't speak to her, but Hansen smiling. A lot, players that, still going to be there, still need the support. And yes, seeing them really changed it. Seeing Casey was heartbreaking. Seeing the way she is, hearing a lot of it on the MUTV. I mean, I heard it on the MUTV, and I mean, everyone who saw it, I reacted. I was in tears just listening to her say, I heard the fans, and one day we'll meet again, and all this kind of thing. It should never have got to this point, but it's women's football, and you think it's not going to happen to you, but here it does. It's happened to us. Am I surprised that it's happened? No, because, with what's going on now, protests and all this, it's bound to happen. Just needs to be the change for this whole club, and hopefully it will be. But Casey deserves a lot better, and she's doing it for the sake of, us, the players, the staff, her principles. I respect her. So much respect is for her as well, not just like us fans or women's football fans, the whole club. Fans, I think, men's fans have probably never watched this before, respect her for what she's done, and it's not right. But yeah, we've got to move on. I know you talked about transfers and where do we go next, and there's young kids coming through. We still want to do it. The pipeline's there, and we're still here. It's what keeps us going every day. Man United, we're through and through. We're hardcore fans. That's what Lucy Staniforth said. So let's, keep going, keep pushing, and we know what we're pushing for now. We know where we want to see change. So the time is now. It's all these statements coming now, but statements, it's just words on a paper. Let me see some action. And I think that's what everyone's asking, both teams, men and women. Everyone's asking now, action. Action speaks louder than words. I can write a nice statement too. Means nothing. Let's see it. So the fans are doing action, there's protests every week, and we went down, let our voices be heard, let her know that what we're supporting her, and yeah, just need to see a lot more now.
Yeah. Look, I've done a couple of shows since the news, so I want to get like Zoe and Stuart's thoughts on the whole situation, because a lot's happened. And John Fry, who was off last week, he just commented saying a lot's happened in the past week. Hello, Karen. Thank you. Lovely to meet you on Sunday. And Karen's the one that's done all the videos that you may have seen on the women's football chat. Some brilliant videos there, and we'll discuss those as well. Anthony, nice one, matey. Hope you got home safely, you and your little one. Yes, so thanks to everybody in the comments. Zoe, I know I kind of cut short last Wednesday on the breaking news. We went for a long time, so we had to kind of cut the show a little bit short. But I guess just what are your emotions over the last 5 days? Because it's been obviously mainly downs, but have you kind of got used to it just yet?
No, I don't think so. When we did last week's show, it was kind of, as you say, it was breaking news, and I had mixed reactions. And at the time that I came on, I didn't really understand everything that was going on inside the club. And I mean, I don't suppose any of us truly know everything that's going on. But it's been a whole range of emotions since then. And I've been trying to write an article about it and to Casey and try to understand it through writing. And you know, it just gets me every time. I really did think that she was going to be here for a very long time. I thought she was going to see us lift the WSL title at some point in the future, and in the near future, after the amazing start that we had to this season. I thought it was definitely doable, and you know, it's just such a shock still. But it's like Nat says, we just need change in the club. And you know, Casey coming out and standing up and saying about the shortfallings, and it makes me sad for the players that are left though as well. That I never knew that they were getting such sort of bad treatment, really, and it really upsets me. And you know, you sort of, as fans, you want to support them, and you kind of feel a bit helpless. How do we get change? How do we get to that point? So I think it's been a range of emotions since then, and I still wish it wasn't happening. And you know, the future is very unclear for us all, really. You know, who's going to follow Casey and leave, and you know, who we're going to sign. Who? It's just an awful lot less clear than it was a week ago, when we still thought that we were going to progress and build on, you know, the amazing start that we had to the season this year, and hopefully next year we could get Champions League. And all of that's been thrown into doubt because Casey meant so much to this club, and she did so much for this club. So yeah, I'm still going through the emotions, but we'll get there, I'm sure, as a fan base.
Yeah. I think when you just said like we're unclear now, I mean, completely unclear. Up until like 4 months ago, I was maybe naive, but I thought it was very clear. We was building something. We was top of the league. You know, yes, at one point we thought we was going to win it, and why not? We was tough. We was flying. We were doing it really well. We thought to ourselves, even if we don't get top, we'll still get third. And all we needed was maybe just a little more strength in depth next season in case it could push on again. Obviously, we didn't realise at that point what was going on behind the scenes, and obviously Casey has stuck to her guns, and as I tweeted out last week, her standards, in my opinion, are higher than her bosses, and she feels a need to kind of go. But Stuart, obviously, I know you got in the comments on Wednesday or Thursday. Thank you for that. What are your thoughts? Obviously, going, you know, with the breaking news, well, the breaking news back then, but also just now it's all over.
Well, firstly, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure to speak to all of you over the course of the season. And yeah, I'm going to miss you all over the close season. But as you've reassured me, the channel ain't going nowhere, and we'll see just as much of you. So hopefully we'll see each other again throughout the summer. But yeah, thank you for having me on. With regards to Casey Stoney, I'll try and keep it brief, which is not a talent of mine. Obviously, it's disappointing because she is the club. She built the club from scratch. Did I have any inkling that things were difficult behind the scenes? No. So it did come as a massive surprise. What hasn't surprised me, though, is the fact that you've got a women's club that isn't supported. I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said her aspirations and level of professionalism is higher than her bosses, and that sums it up completely. We've seen Reading release, I think they released about 7 or 8 players through a mixture of contracts running out, retirements, and players outgoing for other transfers. That is women's football up and down the pyramid. Outside of the Championship and the WSL, so in National League and lower, players are only signed on for 1 season. It's equivalent of, I coach an under-15 girls side. I have their signature for a season, and that's it. And that's what it's like. There's no stability as a player. And if you're an international player, you've probably got a little bit of stability. Jill Scott feels quite comfortable. Lucy Bronze feels quite comfortable. Ella Toon's probably quite comfortable. Jordan Nobbs is probably quite comfortable. But outside of that, if you're a squad player, even in the WSL, you're probably not making. You could potentially be making more money in a job elsewhere. You could probably be the manager of your local supermarket and making more money than you are playing first team football in the WSL sometimes. So it is really unstable. So for that reason, I'm not surprised that players have just been able to walk away after a relatively short period at a club. And I think that's one thing that desperately needs to change in women's football. It needs to be a career for everyone involved, not just your first team regulars, your squad players. I'd be really interested to speak to some of the academy players that are probably on the cusp of going to university, and how many of them will be able to stay in women's football, and how many will think, with this degree, maybe I could come and grab myself a 40 grand a year job, which is more than I'm going to get as a women's footballer at the moment. And if you're not getting the level of respect from your employers, you're not going to feel welcome. All 6 of us, if we're not shown the level of respect, if we're chefs and we've got blunt knives, oven that doesn't work, we can't do our job properly. So their core role is to make sure that those players, those coaches, and all the staff at the club have that basic resources to do their job. And if that's not happening, then you could potentially lose them. I've through launching our own Since 71 podcast this year, I've been able to speak to quite a few players that have been over to the States to study. They go over to the States, and the one thing they all say is they're shocked at how much resources are pumped into it. You turn up there with your 3 or 4 suitcases at the airport, you get 5 or 6 suitcases worth of kit from a university. You get like 4 or 5 shirts. I spoke to one player, and she was saying, I could get a new pair of boots every month if I wanted to. If I'd lost a pair or something, or I'd lost a stud, she could just go walk into the boot room and just grab a new pair. I bet you couldn't do that in most places in the WSL. It's they've really got to look at that root and branch resources, facilities across the league. And I, like Zoe, was a bit shocked, because I would have thought Man United, they're all going to be training full facilities that the men have got, because let's face it, the men they haven't got it for all day long. I'm sure there's a 3-4 hour slot at some point in the day, even if the women don't train till lunchtime. And I'm gobsmacked that they haven't got that level of resources. Through my local grassroots coaching, I've been to some professional development evenings over at Southampton. The women's team there get pretty much access to everything that the men do. Everything. The facilities there are incredible. Their 5-a-side pitches are probably on par with Wembley. Full dugouts. It's pristine. It's absolutely beautiful. And it's going to be no surprise that Southampton were only just edged out by Birmingham at the weekend. And within the next year or two, you'll see them push up, because the facilities and the investment they have in women's football is incredible. They're quite quiet about it, surprisingly. You won't see, they don't have their own social media, so a lot of their achievements are hidden within the men's team, which is something that really disappoints me. I appreciate the whole one club ethos, but when you've got 15 tweets about the men for every one the women's team, it'll get lost ultimately. But what they're doing on the pitch and behind the scenes is brilliant. And I think and considering they're in the 4th tier of women's football at the moment, I know it's slightly skewed position, because if it had not been for the seasons being cancelled, they'd be 3rd tier or championship now. But how their facilities are the envy of the majority of the WSL blows my mind. Especially with the amount of money that is knocking about it doesn't cost much. A lot was made recently about Leyton Orient dropping their women's team. There was a lot of anger online. I have actually spoken to some people within Leyton Orient men's club, and they said that where people were accusing them of trying to save money, he said that's rubbish. Like, it's the amount of money it costs to run a women's team at the fourth tier is actually relatively low, even for a club like Leyton Orient. So it's money doesn't necessarily come into it, but their argument was that they didn't see a level of, I use the word professionalism within the women's club and the people organising the club. It's not the players, it's just the admin side of it, sorry. And they're not professionals, but if you need to support them and if it doesn't cost much to get the team going in the grand scheme of things, then just invest, support them. Say, we've got some executives. They'll come and spend a couple of evenings with you. We'll work with you. Let's do a root and branch review of how we can help everything. And it's just, they've gone, oh, you haven't answered our emails, so we're going to sack off the club. And so it's each side have got a genuine reason as to why they're annoyed and why the splits happened. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's up and down the women's football pyramid. Man United women are probably have a professional mindset, but they're not given the professional resources. So it's not surprising. And that was my nutshell.
So on that, because I was going to lead into saying, okay, I can understand it in women's football as a whole, but this is Man United. It's a massive club. I've seen statements in the past and quite recently about Man United trying to do parallel with the men's team. There's nothing parallel about the men's team whatsoever, in my opinion. But let's just get Zoe back in before we move on to Ben and Gareth regarding yesterday. But Zoe, what are your thoughts behind Casey's quote about saying that it's time to take some time away? That's basically what she says, take some time away. Now, yeah, that could be the case. Take some time away from her bosses or take some time away from the heartache that she's probably had recently. But are you kind of buying that, or do you think that there is a lot more behind this?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more behind it, I think. I think one thing that I wrote about was that Casey's probably exasperated from fighting her own troops, so to speak. And that's what she's doing. You know, her work ethic, we all know her work ethic is second to none. She's one of the most dedicated managers in the league, if not the most dedicated. And you can see it, you hear about that from the players. You hear about the investment that she gives them, not just as a manager, getting the best out of them as footballers, but getting the best out of them as people. She's more than a manager to those players. And that all takes time and effort, and that's ingrained in your personality. And when your club and her bosses are not giving that team or her the same support that they need to do their jobs, then it must feel so demoralizing. And a person like Casey will take that to heart. She's not the kind of person that it's just a job to, and oh well, if they're not putting in the time and effort, I won't. She's not that kind of person. So I think there is a bit of truth to that she needs some time away, because she probably, she's been fighting this battle behind closed doors for so long that none of us knew about, and she's just probably exhausted from it. So even though she loves the team, she loves the players, and to an extent she loves the club, it's all got too much for her, probably because of all these other issues behind the scenes, and she probably does need a rest before she burns out, basically. And she has got a family as well, and it's probably taking its toll on that, and she probably does need a bit of time away from that kind of hostile environment, really.
Yeah, I agree. I look at it like the fact that not only does she think that she can do better, she probably thinks that Man United can do better, but she's just being held back. I could be completely wrong, but that's the way it comes across to me. And that's obviously the facilities, but also absolutely everything. If she's got a vision and she knows that she she probably has faith in her own ability.
Mm-hmm.
If she's not being allowed to do that, then obviously it would be massively frustrating, and you can see why she would need a break from this. We are going to talk a little bit about yesterday. So, there was a match going on yesterday, and of course, I wanted to win it, and I think a lot of Man United fans would want to win it. If I'm honest, I'll be honest. I was there yesterday, and I didn't really care too much about the score. I wanted to win, of course. I was cheering when we was winning. I was angry when we conceded goals. But to me, there was a bigger picture yesterday. The bigger picture was it was the end of a 3-year journey with someone that we really care about.
Mm-hmm.
Nat, I'll bring you in, and then obviously Ben and Gareth can dominate a bit of the conversation regarding what happened yesterday. But was you kind of in the same mindset as me, Nat, that the score was kind of like, I'm not really bothered. I just want to see Casey. I just want to make sure Casey's okay and whatever.
Yeah, obviously you want to win. I mean, I know I've been on here and talked about, we need to, get winning trophies now. The 5th of December, that's out the window. That was what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that would have put momentum into us, starting the season, playing the FA Cup games, and then potentially going into the end of the season where we have a lot of our troubles after the break. So going into that with a trophy, that's what I was thinking. And I know she would have been upset that she couldn't do that. But yeah, I mean, what do you expect? You're hearing that your manager's going, and it's giving you that kind of feeling of negativity. I know Gareth sort of said to me the other day, he sort of did their team talk. We're coming on this low point, there a high point. It was a good moment probably to face us. We did well. We fought back, but it's the story of our season, as you said. And what Stu said and what Zoe said, there's definitely more to it in terms. It's not just the case of here's a good facilities, here you're at Carrington. It's about how you're treated when you're there. And if you look at the Mail's article, they make reference to the way like Pep and the City girls are treated, and they didn't really get that same treatment. And yeah, it is money, it is facilities, but I do think it's, deep down, because this I don't know it fully, I don't know, but I just do think there is something there, and it's not enough support for them. Whether there needs to be more people, I don't know. Whether we need to sort of look at what we're doing and why do we want this team? The team started, and then they've just been let down when they're on the cusp of something great. And I know we're not going on about it, but I think that we need to look back inside and think, why have we got this team? Why do we want it? What do we want to do? Where do we go now? Because it's all right throwing money, but it's more than money in a way. It's the attitude, it's the feelings, it's, are you supporting for the right reasons? Have you got a women's team for the right reasons? And maybe not a lot of clubs do. Maybe a lot of clubs have just got it for getting it, but then that's when you get these issues, I suppose. But in terms of the match, yeah, disappointed. But for me, the best part was seeing a play. I couldn't. We'll talk about it. I don't know if people want to hear about it. There's some people.
Well,
let me bring Benny.
Yeah, let me bring Benny then. So obviously, we already know your reaction to obviously the fact that she's leaving. But talk to us a little bit about when you obviously pulled up at LSV and your thoughts and emotions throughout the whole day, really.
Well, the pull up to LSV, I was a little bit like, what am I really doing here? Really, what? It just doesn't feel right, don't get me wrong. I knew what I was doing here, but there's questions in the back of my mind. Is like, what am I doing here? Seriously, the state the club's in at the minute, the way I feel about the football club, and then I know we're going to get onto it later on, but the ending was why I was there. That was the reason. But we'll get onto that later on. But I said on the pre-match show with Matt on Sunday before, as the team news broke and came out, I said we need to respect Leicester City. Not too much respect, not like we're sit off just show them, let them play their game. We show them a little bit of respect because that football club as a whole, not just the women's side, is on a massive crest wave. It's riding a wave of epic proportions at the minute. Look, their men's team just won the FA Cup. They've just won the Women's Championship. They've been promoted to the WSL. They've been promoted to the big time. That football club is run properly. They've got an owner that actually cares, and their training facilities, which I think Gareth will probably mention later on as well, is second to none. Outclasses ours, So it just shows you where they are going right at the minute. And unfortunately, Manchester United at the minute, as a football club as a whole, it was just riding the crest wave on the downward spiral, Fans are not happy, as we all know, with the owners. There's protests. There'll be more protests tomorrow planned. And it's just really a toxic environment at the minute. Although, the men have got a couple of games left to play and a European Cup fight. Well, a European competition that they've got a final in. But this women's side is what's happened over the last week or so, with the women's side is just sort of put a massive dampener on something that when you think, oh, yeah, we've got protests going on, but we can still see the light in the tunnel. We've still got Casey, we've still got Ollie. And it's been a massive slap in the face now, losing Casey, And, we've all highlighted why, the game itself, man, you just knew that it'd be mentally draining for the players yesterday, You knew it was going to take a lot out of them. It was... However, I wanted us to go out on a win. Let's get to the next round of a cup. Start off next season, go into next season on a little bit of a high momentum that we won. Carry that momentum over. But fair play to Leicester. They exploited our vulnerability. And I think players, we had a couple of lapses of concentration at the back again. But it is what it is. I wanted to win the football match. I know you said, John, that you touched upon that you didn't really care about the result. I wanted to win it because I wanted to send Casey out on a high. I wanted to say goodbye, Gaffer. Thank you very much. But it is what it is, pal. We didn't play all too well. I know we've got players missing. We've got players missed through injuries, and we've had. Whatever else, players been rested, which I think is wrong if that's the case for bloody Olympics and international crap. We paid a goddamn wage at the end of the day. It should be available and playing for Manchester United. But such as the state of the club, doesn't surprise me. It's just emotional. It's still sinking in for me, mate. What are we now? What? How many days on now? 6, 7, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I'm still sinking in, man. I'm still trying to find words to describe my emotions. But yesterday, you said, how did I feel when I pulled in? I was like, what am I doing here? It's like, what's the purpose? But then I know we're going to get onto it, but I want to get Gareth's thoughts on the game first and what he thinks and everything. But the purpose was what right at the end what we was there for. But I want to get Gareth in because I'm baffled on.
Gareth, do you want to just kind of give your opinion on that question on screen about the long-term future of Man United women after this? And then obviously then talk a bit about the game itself, because I know obviously you know a little bit about Leicester players and how Leicester play as well. Considering they won the game, obviously we need to kind of give them their props. So I think you were probably the best person to talk about that one.
I think it depends what you mean by long-term future. I don't think there's any risk of the club going. I don't think we're going to see a Yeovil or a Donny Bells type situation at all. The investment would be the concern. And if you look at those teams that are doing well, there's investment there. Chelsea have bought Kingsmeadow from AFC Wimbledon so that their women have a home. Man City, as much as I hate bigging them up, have the women on the Etihad campus, and the Academy Stadium is a great facility. Leicester have just come up. Their men have moved to a brand new training facility, and the women have gone into the old one, which in itself is a top-class facility, and I think potentially going to be the best facility in the WSL next season, if not second behind City. So that's the type of investment we want to be looking at. We want to be renovating Carrington. and having a home for the players there. I think LSV as a stadium is a great place to be. 12,000 capacity, unlikely to get a lot bigger than that in the WSL unless you're ground sharing with somebody else. But yeah, it's that investment in facilities, and then you feed through into the staff, and then it'll feed through into the players as well. But it starts with those facilities because you need the facilities to get the most out of the players. In terms of the game yesterday, when the lineup came out, I was surprised at the defence. I know players like Press and Groen have had to go back to the USA and Holland because of central contracts and the fact they would be released after the WSL season, which was obviously a week ago. But I didn't think the defence was particularly strong. I thought there would be opportunities for Leicester to exploit that. And I think every single one of their goals came from a defensive mistake. O'Brien's goal was a good goal, but I think she could have been closed down a lot quicker on the edge of the box. She shouldn't have been able, given the time and space, to turn and shoot. The second two goals in the second half, Thorisdottir should have put a stronger pass back in, or been aware that Hannah Kane was there. I'd said before that if Kane gets space, she's going to take it and she's going to score goals, and she did. And I think Millie should have dealt with the ball over the top better. She shouldn't have allowed it to bounce, and she could have dealt with it better than she did. But that being said, there was some really good footwork from Flint to get into the position to score. In that first half, we were on top. We were the better side in the first half, had way more chances. I think every time, I said on Twitter earlier, every time I logged on and scrolled down, there was another Kirsty Lavelle save on my feed. So I think she made sort of 5 or 6 good quality saves throughout the game. And Sam Tierney cleared one off the line as well. So we created the chances. We just didn't put them away. We came up against a team in form. Some great last-ditch challenges. I saw Tierney put one in, Plumpton put one in as well. So we got into there. We got into the final third, but they just didn't really do anything when we got there. And I think what it came down to was Leicester had 3 opportunities to score and took all 3 of them. We had 10 and took 2, one of which took a deflection. Ross's goal took a slight deflection off, I think it was Tierney again, which kind of wrong-footed Lavelle in goal. But we took 2 chances out of 10 and they took 3 out of 3. And I think that's ultimately what it came down to. But I think when you look at that bench as well from yesterday, you look at the bench and think, if things go wrong, who can we bring on to get a goal? And aside from Tooney, there wasn't anyone you could bring on. So, yeah, it's not the way I wanted things to end. And, like Ben, I wanted to go on a high. We've spoken about winning trophies. We've spoken about winning competitions. And we've now got to wait again until next season to see what we can do in the Conti Cup group stage. But yeah, disappointing. And I think the timing of the announcement did Leicester more favours than it did United. They said to us at the end of the game, it wrote the team talk. Go out there and people talking about as though United have already won. They're talking about this massive send off for Casey Stoney. Let's go out there and let's spoil that. And they did. I think we came up against a team in form, like Benny said, flying high, riding that crest of a wave, and yeah, we just didn't take the chances when we got given them, which was disappointing. But it's done now. I think, like everyone else, it hasn't quite sunk in yet. I don't think it probably will until we're back there and you're stood there and there's someone else in the dugout. I think, when someone else walks out and stands in that dugout, that's when it's going to sink in. The signings in the summer are going to be Casey's signings, most of them anyway. Departures, them contracts will be decided already, so that's Casey's departures. So yeah, I don't think really until September it's going to hit home.
Yeah, I agree with that timing as well. I think obviously I feel a little bit better obviously after yesterday, but to me, Casey Stoney is always going to be the manager until I see another manager actually come in and start doing the press conferences and doing the interviews, and then my mind might start going a bit more towards this new person. But at the moment, it's still Casey until somebody else comes in. John Fry in the comments about Tooney starting on the bench. Now, Casey did mention before the match that a couple of 3 players did take knocks, the only thing I can think of is Tudor was possibly one of those players. That's all I can think of. And just to clarify, obviously I did want us to win. It's just that it wasn't really on the forefront of my mind, because all I had on my mind was making sure we tried to do what we could do to give Casey Stoney a good send off. Stu, did you manage to get to watch the game or any highlights at all?
I can't afford to pay for Man U TV. I've got a 1-year-old baby.
What was your thoughts when you saw the result that we lost 3-2?
It's going to mirror my answer before. Surprised, but not surprised at the same time. I did a preview on the website, and I didn't see any real cup upsets at all. If I thought there was going to be any, it would have been Southampton against Birmingham, potentially Charlton Athletic against Blackburn, although the latter is they're probably equal favourites, to be honest, in that game. It just... For me, I think it's the team that, bear in mind, I've not seen it, so please, people, feel free to correct me, but I get the impression that Man United didn't have to play well to win the game. They had to work harder than Leicester City, and Leicester City worked harder, ultimately. Didn't have to look pretty. The players that are out there are pretty much all of them WSL standard players, or if not the very least, that would walk into most teams within the Championship. So it's a very even game, and it just comes down to hard work and maybe a little bit of match fitness and confidence. Let's face it, you guys were all rocked by Stoney's exit, even if you were within the loop or within the bubble and you knew the details of what was going on. It's been going on for 3 years, so it's just been, you just deal with it as the norm. But they're going to be a bit shell shocked as well, and unsurprisingly, it was hard for them to get up. Well, saying it's hard for them to get up for the game is probably doing them a little bit of a disservice, because they are professionals. At the end of the day, they will have wanted to win, but when you've got something like that hanging over your head, it's not normal. It's not the normal circumstances.
Yeah.
So before the game started, it was announced that Ona got Player of the Season. I think many fans would probably agree with that. Are you one of those fans, Zoe?
Yeah, definitely. I've been really impressed with her this season. It's funny because she was one of the new intake at the start, and everyone was, myself included, was just really excited for the two Americans. And everybody else was sort of overlooked a little bit, I guess. But Honor's come in and just done an absolutely fantastic job. She's really settled into the team well, and I think it's very well deserved, and I'm really happy for her.
Go on, Natalie.
Oh my God! Honor Patrick, tra-la-la-la-la. Honor Patrick, tra-la-la-la-la. Listen, we had a Spanish fan in before. I can't even say her name. Regigate Feminico. She told me Honor was going to be the absolute star. Honor has absolutely come in and smashed this league. I think we've seen it with Barcelona, the Spain national team, and everyone sort of, Spain, boom. No, she believes last year they did well. Even the World Cup the year before that, they did well. They won the under-19s World Cup. They got to the final, I think, in the under-20s World Cup. Honor, mate. Absolutely different gravy. And I just want to say, like, when we met her, because I've been singing her name all season, I knew she was going to tear it up, and I'm so happy she's come to this club. And I saw her, and I was like, there she is, the Spanish queen, and she just gave a smile. She didn't say much, and I think it's probably because she can't speak English. She sees 10 of us. She sees me shaking the barrier. She sees Ben in his big beard. She sees Matt with his Leicester. She's probably thinking, who the hell are these people? But she just saw and she waved, and then she got in a car and we were singing her, and she even plays right wing. Listen, left back, right wing, left wing, straight centre forward. Give me 11 Honor battles or Anya Bache, whatever. Listen, I knew she would be a star. There's the girl. Hey, I knew. We said it. Vindication. Lifting the player of the year. Yeah, it's always about Honor. And she just blew that kiss. That was it. Boom. Finish. Vamos. España. Viva España. Honor. Honor.
Everybody in the comments agrees with you, and yeah, stick a thumbs up. We don't need to say this, but stick a thumbs up if you think Honor should have been the player of the season. I'm sure we should. We've got 63 people watching across all platforms, so please get onto YouTube and just hit that like button for Honor, because she thoroughly deserves it. Not to stick with you one more time. So you mentioned about when she came out the stadium, about when LJ came out. So let's talk a little bit about after the game. So LJ came out first with Leah Galton. Nat, you tell a story a little bit about what we kind of saw at the stadium when the players were coming over.
Man, LJ is everything. I've been up to Scotland to watch her play in the Under-19s World Cup. I've been and watched her at St George's Park. I remember the very first game. Ben was there. Ben, were you at Villa? I think on the Villa game. I can't remember. We won 12-0, but she scored the first 2 goals, and I thought, "Oi, this girl's something." And you know, when we were playing Spurs away into Spurs at home, and she just picked up the ball. Her and Jess 1-2s. Leicester back in 2018-19, picking up the ball at 40 yards, blasting it top corner. You knew that this girl was something special, and I've been saying it to her since day. You know, Ballon d'Or, you're going to be the best. You're going to be the best player in the world. There's no doubt about it. I remember on a fan cams I did straight away after we played Birmingham in thing, and I said, I've been to the World Cup and I've never seen a player as good as LJ. And that's not saying like she's there right now. I mean, I think now I've seen Tobin, she's there and doing it consistently and doing it. But just some of the movements that I see that LJ can do is absolutely different class. So obviously I adore this girl, you know, and I think she loves the support. She's always like, Natty, sing for me, Natty, do this, Natty. And just the fact that we know that she's going, you know, let's not be shy. She's going to leave. She's going to go Chelsea. It's all around her papers. And just she came over, you know, there's security there. Don't think, you know, COVID secure. We was COVID secure. Had our masks on. And she just bam, 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 fist pumped everyone. The video's there. But I just said, Elder, don't forget us. And, you know, thanks for everything. And I wish I could give her a hug, because that's what we, you know, every time I see her, she'd always be like, Natty, wait for me. All right, LD, I'm waiting. What do you want? Oh, nothing. And just like things like I remember she did a little back heel versus Birmingham in December, and then Lizzie crossed it in and Tooney scored a goal, and she just went, she came over and she was like, wait. And I waited and went, what's up? And she just whispered to me, did you see it? And then we just started like jumping up and down and going mad. But I love it. She loves it. And she started off as this little shy girl who didn't say anything. I remember that Villa game, she looked on the floor. She didn't even say thanks. She just was so shy. And now she's come out of a shell. And I remember seeing her at St. George's. There was a little kid, and she was telling a little kid, like, I used to be really shy, but you got to just do it. You got to speak up. You got to be brave. And she's still a baby herself. You know, I've got 10 years on her. She's 19 years old, and I just feel like we're not going to be there. And she's so used to us. And I know Chelsea fans are good, but it's not the same. It's not going to be the same. And she knows it. We know it. And yeah, but she still loves us. And that's what she said at the end. I said, make sure you remember us, make sure you still love it. And then she went, that's why I'm coming over in it. And it's just, yeah. And she gave me a match shirt at the end. She told me to come over to her car and gave me a match shirt. And it's just women's football, man. It hits different. And I know we're going to talk about Stoney. And I think a lot of us that were there that saw Stoney and everything that she did, that she's, gone up in aspiration. And, you know, definitely get and watch them videos, because that's why I love women's football, because just the stories of Honor, the stories of LJ, Stanley saying, like, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for you to be back. That's why I'm going back, because she says she wants it. And that's who you do it for, your fans, your players, your team. You give them that extra boost. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was emotional. Yeah,
it was. And we'll talk about Lucy and Casey in the next 15 minutes. Comment on screen, thank you for putting that up. So our first show on our new YouTube channel will be tomorrow night. So if you've been following our account, we do Twitter lives Every Tuesday, every Saturday, we do a Twitter live. Matt Crane hosts the Tuesday one. Ben hosts the Saturday one. From now on, they will also be on YouTube. So please copy that link into your whatever you call it, the web address into your browser, and please subscribe to it so you don't miss out on those shows as well. And there will be lots of content coming on there over the next few weeks and months. Stu, thoughts on LJ, mate?
Well, I've kind of got a question for you guys, to be honest. So, understandably, from Natalie's experience, it's personal. She's losing a friend, but across the whole fan base, and maybe this is one for the comments on the screen as well. LJ's leaving to progress her career, and arguably you would say she's stepping up to a team that's made the Champions League final, won the league. So, irrespective of our alliances, she'll see it as a step up in her development. But she's leaving with a handshake and a hug. Therefore, why is Alex Greenwood's departure to Lyon any different? And why do you guys think that there is the feeling for both of those players is completely opposite? And I know there's the obvious that one's gone to Manchester City, but again, Manchester City, Chelsea, we're not mates with Chelsea fans. They're not none of our second team is Chelsea. So therefore, I'm just interested why people's opinions are. One is so beloved and one's the either hated or the pantomime villain.
I'll speak very briefly. People want to get in the comments, and if anybody else wants to jump on and say their thing, I think it's more to do with what's gone on behind the scenes. So when Alex obviously left, it was like different circumstances. Things were, I don't want to get into it too much, but I think, like you say, LJ left, I think, on good terms, whereas obviously Alex at the club didn't leave on good terms. So because we're aware of that, then obviously we're always back Casey, whereas I think LJ, it comes across that she hasn't left on bad terms. So that's why we'll continue to support her. That's just like my take on that. If anybody else wants to jump in, feel free. But
yeah, can I jump
go
in
on.
quickly? See, I have a different opinion to, I think, I'd say 90% of the fan base. I don't really have any ill feelings towards Alex at all. I think she was leaving a championship winning side, first season in the WSL, to go and play for, at that point, undisputedly the best side in Europe, one of the better sides in the world, and she went to go and win a Champions League, which she did. So, I don't hold any kind of ill feeling to her for that. It's a shame she's come back and gone to City. There'll always be the chance and things around that. But the decision she made to go to Lyon, it's part of the game, especially when you're a club that's growing. I watch Oldham play in the men's game, and every single year we'll get a player in, they'll play well, and they'll go. They'll go somewhere better, and I don't think you can begrudge a player that. There were different things that happened behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, for me, it's just pure and simple. She went to the best side in Europe, went to win a Champions League, and did.
Yeah, I agree with Gareth. Listen, I'm not even. I know people then go, "Oh no, yeah, you are." Listen, I'm not even bothered. Like people saying this and that about Alex. She's done what she's done. Me, I want to say LJ. I think you're seeing there is a lot of homesickness as well. I think this deal was done long before this Casey thing, so it's not a case of she's gone because of Casey thing. I think this was talked about in January, February, I was hearing. Maybe that's when the issues started with the training and stuff. So maybe it is linked. But what it is, I think Namrata said it there. I remember when Jackie Cronin signed and Alex, it was, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I think Alex wanted, obviously, you got an offer from Lyon, fair. But I think it was a lot of back and forth. I'm staying, I'm going. No, I want to stay now. No, I want to go. No, I want to stay. No, I want to go. And I think it just got to the point where she said, I'm going again. We signed Lotta. And then she changed her mind again. And it was too late. And then she had to go. And that's why I think it dragged out there was an announcement that she was going, but then it dragged out for like a good 2 weeks because I think she didn't want to go. Then, when she was in Lyon, I saw her at England, and she was saying about coming back. But then we've heard that apparently Casey didn't want her back. I think she would have come back to United after Liam, but it is what it is. And I think then that's all she had was City. And obviously she wants to come back, so she's gone there. But then I think a lot of people were upset the way she went, and then she's come back and gone to City. I can see why people are upset. It is what it is. And I think City, if you had to say to anyone, you know, City and Liverpool, isn't it, really? Chelsea, yeah, we don't like them. Yeah, I'm not happy. She's going to Chelsea, LJ. But LJ's a baby as well. I just, if it's homesick and, you know, like, I don't know. LJ, like I've just said, like, LJ is my friend anyway. So even if she did go, LJ is my friend. Like, Ebony is my friend. And not in a, like, obviously I know she's not my friend, but, you know, I invested a lot of time. I'll support them girls. And with Alex, it just felt a bit cold in a way. I know it sounds different. With this, it just feels different. But I don't know. At the same time, fair play on Alex. If that's what she's doing, that's what she's doing. I feel like I'll still speak to LJ, even though she's at Chelsea. Whereas with Alex, I sort of said to someone before, she just cut me off, like, straight away. So it wasn't a case of you were getting abused and you've unfollowed me. You just cut me off. That's it. So I don't know, mate. I don't know. I know that's people are going to then twist these words probably and say it different. But I don't know.
It's interesting because, and I look forward to having a chat with John camera a little bit later and find out a little bit more of the gossip. But it's, I think you've all quite fair, balanced, and reasonable, to be honest. But it's going to be a bit of growth. But for me, I know when I spoke to John and Natalie and Ben a little bit last week, I don't know if I'm jumping in on a topic for later on, so feel free to cut me off, John. But I do think there is life afterwards. Natalie, you shared the is it the 7 stages of grief? And you guys have been kind of literally ticking them off of the dictionary definition of each of them. So I can see how much it hurts all of you. But life will go on. If the new appointment is spot on.
Oh, 100%. And the one person, sorry, Stuart, but the one person, and we're going to go on to it, but the one person who's made me feel like life will go on is Lucy Stan, in the way that she spoke to us.
Well, do you want to talk about that now, Nat? Because obviously, anyway. So obviously, people have seen the videos.
People have seen the videos. If you haven't, please do go check out All for United Women FC. I know for All for United main Twitter channel, but she came over. She was like, "I need to see these fans. I'm not seeing them." You know, so she told the security, "Open the gate for me because I'm coming through." She came through. I said to her, "Listen, Casey is why I'm here." I had a T-shirt on with Casey, and she went, "She's why I'm here." You know, she totally said it's a sad day. But then she started talking about, "I can't wait till the stadium's full. I can't wait to have you back. I remember you at Birmingham when you played that match and the way it was. And I'm a real football fan." And if anyone's listened to the Players podcast, she said exactly the same thing. She said, "You know, I could hear you giving the keeper stick and I could hear you chanting all your songs." And, you know, we sang a little song for her. She's got a song. And that is giving me hope. Just because she deserves it, Honor deserves it, Ivana deserves it, Tuna deserves it, Hanson deserves it, Leah deserves it, whoever else is coming in, you know, they deserve it. The new manager, yeah, it might take time. I don't, you know, I'm not just going to, "Hiya, mate, you okay? Yeah, I'm a manager now. Yeah, gaffer. No, it's going to hurt. But the players that have been there from the start, someone like Lucy Stan, who hasn't had us, you know, supporting her really, Honor, the way I love her, and I've never even seen her play live, you know, and blowing kisses and all that. That's has made me feel like, yeah, there's life on, and, you know, it's not just going to be. I think the thought was they're all going to go. I mean, a lot of them will go, but I don't think it's going to be, apart from LJ, I don't think it's going to be anyone that we're sort of really. You know, that's got us. There will be a lot of tears. There's going to be a lot of the OG21 that are probably going to go. But I don't think it's going to be anyone that we sort of like, "Oh, shit, you know, this is who we're building our future around." Hopefully Jackie stays, God pray. But
so just to quickly jump in on that point, for me, I would say that Jackie is probably the most important of the big name foreign international players that needs to be retained at the club. I think Press and Heath, while they're absolutely stellar, they can be replaced. But if you look at the international stature of Tobin Heath compared to Leah Galton, I'd be interested in your opinions, but I personally would much rather have Leah Galton at the club than I would Tobin Heath. In Leah Galton, you've got a player for the long term, and she can mix it at international level, WSL level, championship level, and FA Cup against lower leagues. She is, and that's what I think about. If you get the right appointment in, you could bring in someone that's managed at Wolfsburg, managed at Lyon, which is great for pushing the club into Europe. But being ruthless, the club aren't in Europe next season. So actually, you could look at someone like Carla Ward that brings in players and personalities and builds a team of, as opposed to just parachuting in big name players for the short term basis.
I am conscious of time, and sure, it's a fantastic point, and we need to obviously get you back on and elaborate on this a little more. I can see Emma waiting backstage, but just before we bring Emma in, Ben, Gareth, what were your thoughts when Casey obviously came out of the building first, came out to the stadium, she saw us, she went over to her car, we sang a couple of songs, and then obviously she came back over to us. That to me was, I used the word closure at the start of the show. That's kind of all I wanted, really, because I know nothing's ever going to change. She's left the club. Nothing that we can do, nothing anyone can do is going to change that. But at least we managed to say what we wanted to say to her. And it was very emotional on her behalf and on our behalf. But Ben, start off with yourself. What were your thoughts for those 5 minutes or so?
Mate, it was a little bit emotional myself. I was trying not to let on, man. Luckily I had me medication for my bloody back. So I was trying to hide behind the pain in my back more than anything else. But trust me, mate, that was, I don't know, emotional, mate. When she came over, it was like gave everybody a fist pump. Saying like we all said thank you, Gaffer. Wishing her all the best for the future. It's just what got me, like I said, backstage was when we asked, "Can we have a picture?" She said yes, and as she sort of that, you just saw in one of her eyes, just saw. Remember it, her eyes started watering, and I was like, "Oh God, she's gonna go here." She's absolutely emotional, and that for me then just hammered at home. This is it now. This is finally it. There seems to be there's no coming back. There's no U-turn. There's nothing, But I've got to say, from the bottom of my heart, thank you to Casey Stoney once again. I've said it every show that I've done, every show that I've been on. She didn't have to come across to us. She didn't have to. She could have just waved goodbye from a distance, But there's that respect that I was talking about that I've said on every show that I've been on, every show that I've hosted. There's that respect between us and her and us, as fans. And it'd be hard to replicate that with another manager. To be fair, if it is someone like Carla Ward, you could probably replicate that because me and Nat know her from Sheffield and whoever else knows it. Nat in particular knows Carla Ward quite well. She could possibly be a manager that you could replicate that with. But it depends who comes in and what their personality is like. I just want to say one thing before I move on to Gareth as well, is that players come and go, managers come and go, but the football club is always going to be here. The women's team, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, will always be here. Even if we're bottom of the league, top of the league, in Europe, not in Europe, we will always be there. It'll always be there for us, And, that's the one thing that, keeps us all going. It's the football club. Yes, it's in a bit of a shit state at the minute, but we have to be there, as Nat said, next season to cheer on players like Ona. We're not seeing her play live yet. Cheer players like Standing Forth on. Again, big respect for her to come over. I was more with Gareth and Craney when she came over, but I was listening from a distance because I wanted Nat to have her time. I wanted the people that were close to us to have their time. I like to be the man behind the scenes a little bit. I'll let Nat have her time. Because she deserves that. She's the most passionate out of all of us, and just to see Standing Forth come across and Casey come across, no matter what security said. I know the security didn't say anything to Casey because they know they ain't going to tell her to. But he's just glad that Natalie just got that that precious little few moments with LJ, with Casey, and with Staniforth. You know, it's just because Nat was sat on the bench going, I don't know where I'd go for here next season. But it's good that Staniforth as one of the key players to come across and just rejuvenate Nat, you know. And it rejuvenates me because, like I said at the start of the show, like I pulled up going, what am I doing here? And this is what I wanted to come on to. The end point is why we do it. Because players come and go. Greenwood, LJ, they all come and go. Managers come and go. But the football club will always be here. And we've just got to support it as best we can, 100%. Get them chance going. We'll get back in the ground and make it loud and intimidating for visiting teams and visiting fans. You know, we are united in the day. I'll just hand over to Gareth because I know we're dragging well on here.
I'll be concise. It was a post-match of two halves, to use a really massive football cliche. Like, from talking to the Leicester players and the staff there and how pleased they were, I'm glad I did that before we spoke to Casey, because you're right, it definitely was emotional. You could see that she was getting emotional. I think some of us were getting emotional as well. But like Karen said in the comments, you know, Casey said to keep supporting, to keep going. And I think the other players will want that as well. And, you know, you guys were there and singing outside the stadium. And one of the Leicester players said to me, you got in, didn't you? To me and Matt. And we're like, no. Because they could hear us from inside. So they knew we were there. And, you know, and at the end said to keep supporting. And I think, you know, it's important, like Ben said, managers, players, they'll come, they'll go, but you know, we now need to be that constant. We now need to be that continuity between the two phases, between the two eras, and yeah, take it from there. And can we push towards Champions League next year? Yeah, I think so. You know, we're a point off it. Let's keep that same level of optimism that we would have done if Casey was still here, and let's go again in September, and let's hope that the Conti Cup final somewhere good, somewhere exciting.
Listen, we're not going to just get Champions League. We're going to win the league, yeah? We're so close. I can taste it. I've tasted it. The top. Let's just keep it on. And that's what I would have been saying if Casey was here or not. Let's just keep it on. Yeah? Let's go. Set round 2.
So on that then too, 73 people watching across all platforms. So please make sure that you're on YouTube. Hit the thumbs up.
45 likes, by the way. So
get in the comments now. This is
Stuart, Zoe, Gareth, Ben. Thank you very much for coming on. It's always hard with the 6 of us, but please stay behind the scenes if you want. And
keep watching, keep jumping the comments.
So we're going to bring Gemma in there, but thank you guys.
So much, Stu. Thank you so much, Zoe. I know the other 2 boys are on a lot, but thank you two especially. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Penny. Yes. Emma. I just want to shout out Emma. Not that I didn't love, obviously, guys, I love you if you're still there, but Emma, everything that you've done for Man United fans this season, keeping us going, keeping us updated, the way that your name's always mentioned in these shows, all your comments, all your press conferences. And I remember there was one conference you weren't there and everyone said, like, where's the quotes? And I said, Emma's not on. There's no quotes. So, you know, you are really like driving our fan base up, I think, because your comments are always shared in WhatsApps, comments are always shared in Twitter DMs. Like I said, we've always got your name running around the screen because, you know, of the things that you do. So I just want to shout you out for that one thing. Thank you. Oh,
I think you're on mute.
You're on mute. Hear us? I can't hear you.
I'll put it in the comments. It's not sure. So we remove it and try and bring it back in again.
Yeah. I'll join it again.
Nat, you never got a chance to obviously say you, when Casey come over, and obviously obviously when you come over to us, obviously we were standing pretty much next to each other, but what were your emotions when you finally came over and you knew that was your time to say goodbye?
Well, like I said, I was crying just before anyone came over. I was crying because I heard what she said on MUTV about how she heard and about how we'll meet again. And when she came over, man, then I was emotional, fist pump, and she was just about to get off. And I think someone said you could hear it in my voice. I just said, please, can we get a picture? And, you know, Casey is someone who intimidates me anyway, in a way, because she's just all powerful, all encompassing. And, you know, for her to just, and no thoughts about it. And like what Ben says, she was just crying, and it was emotional, and it made me emotional, and listening to her back. You there?
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yeah, spot on.
I think because sorry guys, I was doing a podcast earlier and I think it's connected my audio to the headphones, so that was my fault. I'm not very tech savvy.
It's okay.
Natalie was just obviously going through her thoughts when Casey came over. Nat, you mentioned about Casey's presence, and I thoroughly agree with everything. I think of all that and everything, you just got to just demand so much respect, and I'm kind of scared of her. If ever she looked me in the eye, I'm scared. But you know what? I'm going to say the opposite. Yesterday when she came over for the first time ever, I think she looked like almost human, and like it actually like made me feel more comfortable. Like I actually saw her more as a person as opposed to, obviously I called her the boss, but I think just for those few seconds, it was like, it's over now. You're a human being. Thank you for everything. She didn't need to say anything. We didn't need to say anything. We just knew we didn't need to say anything, did we? And I just think that photo at the end was very nice. And I just obviously just use this opportunity just to say thank you one more time. But Emma, do you want to respond to a little bit what Natalie was saying earlier about all the quotes that you put on Twitter, and a bit of a thank you from the United fans, because it does go a long way. Your tweets blow up, and I know that you mentioned before you have to come off Twitter for a day or two because your tweets do blow up. And thank you because we do really follow them.
Oh no, thank you. Really kind words. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Matt. Thanks for that, John. To be honest, I do most of that stuff I do before my actual shift starts as well. So it's nice to get a little bit of recognition for that. So I really appreciate that. But no, it's good to hear that the fans are talking about it and discussing it. And yeah, it's why I've always said to both of you, I'm always happy to come on, and I want to speak to the fans. And anytime you guys have kind of got questions or you've got concerns, like I'm always happy to sort of obviously be the middle woman between you guys and the club. So great to be on, and great to speak to you all, and hope you're all well and hope you're all doing okay.
Kartik, she's off Fabrizio. Listen, pull that one up, John. When the transfers come, she is the one. We want that info. We want to know. We heard this whisper. Emma, go and find out. We've heard this. Emma, go and find out what's happening with Tobin. What's happening with this? Who's injured? Why can't we see a picture? That's what it is. And I'm so glad that you're on now, because I don't know how John wants to take it, but the article you put out today, there's so many questions from it. I think a lot of us sort of know it already. I think we've sort of accepted it, but I mean, I don't want to jump in, John, but there was the one bit that I thought, this is interesting, and I just want to know, what Casey bigged up Ed Woodward, and for me, I've heard contrary reports. I've heard he's not really interested in the women's team. He was happy when it went back then, and he wasn't keen on it back then. But obviously, she's seeing him as a really big ally, which will probably shock a lot of people on this, because a lot of fans were so happy when he went, obviously with everything that he does with the men's team, but I didn't see him as being that guy for the women's team. But obviously she said different. What's your point? What do you want? What's your thoughts? And obviously when you said that, and your overall opinions on, say, Ed Woodward and his role in the women's team.
Yeah, so I actually asked her a couple of questions about a week before she handed in her resignation, because I'd sort of, kind of caught wind of a couple of rumours over the last 6 months. I think it's been quite obvious. Obviously, I've put out the quotes about her frustrations around the training ground. frustrations around the injuries. Obviously, there was the inquest, which I asked her about in terms of those injuries. So I wasn't expecting her to resign, but I sort of, I was aware of perhaps just a couple of sort of what I thought was more minor issues, to be honest. So I asked her about whether she felt confident in sort of the support she was getting going forward. Obviously, I released those quotes out on Twitter. I wouldn't want to indirectly quote anything now, but she said that she'd had conversations and felt she was confident. Obviously, you don't really know, behind the scenes whether that is the case. I guess there's only so much you can say. And actually, the first time I asked the question, she did kind of swerve it a little bit. So I did sort of have to push her a little bit on a second question. And then someone came in the end. I think it was Glenn Moore, actually, who works for the Eye paper. I think he came in and asked about Ed Woodward and about his resignation, which had come a few days prior to that. And Casey was complimentary, said that he was kind of the go-to person higher up in terms of who she dealt with on a daily, weekly, however often it was basis in regards to the women's team. So she said she was disappointed to see that he would be leaving, and she would obviously have to, again, not an indirect quote, but essentially make friends with someone else higher up in the board in terms of trying to build that relationship and have those conversations about the women's team. So again, you don't know what their personal relationship was like, but certainly from a working relationship, I certainly got the impression that he was the person that she would go to if she had concerns or conversations. But yeah, I guess that's kind of the extent of what she said, really.
Can I just, Nat, you just jump in when you want, because obviously I'll got things on my mind. So following on from that then, so you mentioned, obviously you heard a little bit beforehand, there's rumours going around about 2 weeks beforehand. I heard it from a fan from America that she was going to go to the United States. Were those the kind of rumours that you were hearing, or were you hearing more something along the lines of she's obviously unhappy at the club, or that she was going to go, but no rumours about the United States?
Yeah, the rumours I was getting wasn't to do with her future. It was to do with her concerns around, like I said, what I thought was fairly minor stuff at the club. And it's stuff that, like I said, I'd kind of questioned her on over like the last 4 to 5, 6 months anyway. I was aware of these rumours about America. But I mean, as far as my understanding currently now as well, is that there has been interest from American clubs. But I mean, this is Casey Stoney. She'll have interest from plenty of clubs, I'm sure. But as far as I'm aware, she hasn't got a job lined up. She wasn't leaving to walk into another job in America. Obviously, there has been contrary reports to that. But like I say, my understanding is that it goes as far as there is interest from America, and that is the extent of it. Obviously, that situation may have changed in the last 2 to 3 days, but certainly going into the weekend, that was what I was aware of. So, the rumours I'd heard, like I said, were more around her and Manchester United directly, and less so about America.
Emma, I'm going to go in deep now, not deep, but just how I feel. When this was talking, something that we always talk about, something that I always pressure on, why we're getting all these injuries. People were quick to either blame her or blame the training, and obviously, looking at the training, that's what it was. But like you said, I was with you. I thought it was minor. I did not think. I mean, God, the way she was crying on interviews, we used to Radio Manchester, heard praying of all things, from hear it on MUFC, where voice cracks with David was, where Penny said she saw tears in her eyes. She didn't want to leave, and like you said, it's minor, but how do you think it got to this, where they've not done something better, sorted it, resolved it? Casey's very this is the way things should be done. She's very set in a standards, and I know John talks about her standards are probably bigger than ours. Well, looks of it, yeah. How do you think it's come to this, where she's, like you say, we're all crying, and I know why she's done it, but why didn't the club step up, or what do you think the reasons are?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the biggest question, isn't it? And, I guess that's kind of, if I could get her in a room right now, that would be the answer that I would ask her is, why didn't the club fight to sort of keep you, or what could the club have done to keep you? Because, yeah, by all accounts, I think it's pretty clear. I don't need to tell you all that I don't think she wanted to leave. I think we all could see that from the emotion. And like I said, she hasn't got another job. So I think that says a lot in itself. So you don't know. You don't know whether it's, and this is kind of what I wrote in the article, was that I guess back in 2018 when the team was formed, there were kind of promises made, over training facilities. Perhaps she doesn't feel like there's enough ambition in terms of investment. I will stress that I don't know that is the case. That's just what I would assume, given the fact that we've seen obviously Chelsea and Manchester City invest. I know Everton have a very high player budget, which certainly matches those in the top three. So maybe she felt that the club had kind of thrust a lot of support in the first 2 years, and perhaps, and again, this is what I wrote, perhaps stagnated this year and perhaps looking forward. We know that she's done the bulk of, if not all of the recruitment for this summer already. That's no secret. She said this openly in press conferences. So it'll be interesting to see what caliber of players come in. And I think that will say a story. I mean, I think, Lauren James looks likely to be going to Chelsea. So that in itself will probably have been a disappointment, as I'm pretty sure Casey would have wanted to have kept her. So yeah, you don't know. Maybe it's around kind of player recruitment or investment, and there's an overall picture there. But certainly, like I said, I think the fact that there were promises made over things in 2018 that haven't come to the forefront. Maybe she's looked now and gone, look, it's been 3 years. If those promises haven't been fulfilled, then perhaps my long-term goals and ambitions aren't going to be fulfilled as well.
Sorry, John. 5 years she talks about, and I remember as a fan, and I was in that very, very first game versus Sheffield United, and she was talking about 5-year plan. I want to win the Champions League. I want my kid to be able to, kids from the under-10s to be able to go through and see that pathway. And listen, Carrie Jones is absolutely different class. Tara Bourne, different class. They put money into the academy to bring in those players. But like you say, I just think, I know John's pulling up the current. I don't understand, why did they create that women's team? I know I'm asking you, Emma, and you don't know either. But it just, to sort of, like you say, put in the 2 years investment and then sort of stand still, sort of makes a mockery of even, it feels like, even starting it, making all these fake promises. They put the money in from 2018, we would have had the training ground, regardless of any COVID issue. We would have had our own bubble in our own training ground. And do you think it's just maybe systematic of, I know Benny, we talked about, it's systematic of the whole club. So the whole club ownership, there's issues with the men's team as well. They gave all these reasons why they started it, but what reasons do you know why they actually did start it again?
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't ignore the first 2 years where the club, they showed clear support, they showed clear investment. They were passionate genuinely about having a successful women's team. My own personal opinion is perhaps the club were a little bit naive as to just how much competition they would have in terms of in the women's game. They maybe took for granted that Manchester United as a brand and as a badge would be able to, get the levels of recruitment once they were in the WSL as the likes of Man City and Chelsea and Arsenal and even Everton now. And I think, as you guys will know, it's not as simple as just being able to say, I mean, you look at Liverpool for one, as being able to say, look, this is a big club, this is a big badge, come and play for us. That has a certain pull, certainly. And I would argue that probably 70% of the pull to Manchester United was also to do with Casey Stoney. But again, my own personal opinion is perhaps that jump between kind of being a fourth or a fifth place team, sort of the Manchester Uniteds and the Evertons, that jump between those teams and getting into that top 3, certainly the top 2, is massive. And I don't think people quite, sort of grasp the magnitude of that and what was needed, and sharply as well. So Casey's a very ambitious manager. She's a very ambitious person. I think she would have liked to have been, well, I mean, she said openly she wanted to be able to challenge those teams this season. They weren't able to, obviously the result against Arsenal in isolation, but on the whole, on the field, she wasn't able to do what she wanted to do. And maybe it's hit her that realization of she can't make that jump as quickly as what she had hoped, or as quickly as what she had been promised by the club, has perhaps led to her frustrations and has perhaps led to her departure.
Can I just jump in on this one, and then obviously coming afterwards? So you made a good point regarding you got about being stagnated, and also you mentioned in your article about the cliff. Do you think that maybe United don't actually have an answer regarding the training facilities? Obviously there is an answer, but they just couldn't kind of agree on something without obviously United spending loads of money that they just didn't want to do. So at the moment, LSV was potentially not good enough. The cliff wasn't good enough. Carrington's not good enough. Was there just no? Do you think there was just like no suitable or easy fix, and then that kind of led to maybe the disagreement?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best way of saying it, is that it wasn't an easy fix, and I think maybe Casey has realised that because all these times that I've asked questions, obviously the cliff wasn't ready, and it isn't ready. So that is pretty much the simple base of it. LSV was okay up until when the poor weather kicked in, and then it just wasn't suitable enough. They couldn't train on it. It was icy, it was wet, it couldn't deal with the weather. So that was why they ultimately had to move to Carrington. Carrington, there's not enough space for them. There's barely enough space for the men's team, men's teams at the moment. So I think that's where the frustrations have perhaps come from, is that, as I said, 2018, it was kind of long-term, get them in at the cliff. So I guess in the meantime, if you know it's a short-term thing, then training at LSV or training at Carrington is okay. But as soon as perhaps that option of it needing to be more of a long-term thing kicks in, I can understand why frustrations have probably grown.
Question there for Emma.
Yeah, if you're happy to answer that question, it's fairly straightforward, but you can answer that question if you want there. The Carthag's put on screen.
Emma, do you think Casey believes that Ed Woodward wanted the women's team to have been built with the same principles as the men's team? That's a really difficult question, because obviously I can only go by what Casey says to us in press conferences, and obviously there's only a certain element of honesty she can give. I don't know Ed Woodward personally either, so it's hard for me to judge his character. I would say that I had a one-to-one interview with Casey last summer after the first season of WSL, and she was very excited about the next step for this season and looking forward. She was very ambitious. There was lots of positive conversations around the club moving forward. So I genuinely believe that Casey did have faith in the club, whether or not that is the board, individuals on that board, her team, whatever that might be. I think the club as a whole, she was genuinely, convinced by. So Ed Woodward, if he has been the kind of the go-to and the person that she communicates with, then you would expect she obviously had some kind of element of trust in him as well. But like I say, it's hard for me to judge that with my own opinion without kind of knowing Ed personally.
Can I just say, right? Sorry, Emma, for cutting you up, but I'm sure a lot of other managers trusted in Ed Woodward. Louis van Gaal, David Moyes, Jose Mourinho, just to name a few. Even Ollie, and then he's had to be moved to the side, and then John Murtaugh's been brought in. So
sure, but then at the same time, when Casey was asked that question about Ed Woodward, she could have quite easily have given a one-sentence answer and said, "It's a shame to see him leave the club," blah blah blah. a PR response, and she didn't. So that suggests to me that there was a relationship there. You know, she kind of went out of her way to say the work that he'd done with her and the fact that she would have to form a new relationship with someone else. Casey's very deliberate in what she says. She knows what she's doing. So the fact that she expanded upon that answer probably tells me more that she did feel like she had some kind of relationship with him. But again, like I say, it's difficult. That's just my opinion reading the situation. So
I'm not saying that, I'm not denying that Casey didn't, but I can just, as a United fan, I know not everything I hear as a fan is true, but the fact that United fans are celebrating his departure, for me, I could have told Casey in 2018, don't trust Ed Woodward, but that's by the by now. When did
I can't comment on that.
Do you know when the squad learnt about her departure? Then
that was supposed to be the same morning, wasn't it? I'm sure that was Wednesday morning, and it was
we heard
released
the same
on the
morning.
Wednesday afternoon. I think the staff first, wasn't it, and then the players. But obviously, as we've been saying since December, January, when your boss is unhappy or if there's things going on behind the scenes, your players all know. It might not have been announced, but well, what do you think about that, Emma? Obviously, being a bit more involved, do you think the players would have known beforehand? Not known as in like factually, but do you think that the players would know that Casey has been a different character in the last few weeks or months?
I mean, if I had heard a week before that she was unhappy, then to some extent of it, the players would have known as well. I honestly don't think many, if any, would have known the extent of it. I think you can see by kind of their reactions and perhaps how emotional it was over the weekend, just how much of a shock it came to everyone, really. I also think her decision probably would have, I don't get the impression it was a decision that she's been sort of mulling over for months. I think it was not that she'd rushed the decision. I think it got to a point where she just said, you know what, perhaps, as I said, like that kind of realization moment.
Yeah.
So the players, like I said, the players did find out that morning, you're right, as far as I'm aware. I think one or two staff members might have known beforehand, but the bulk of the staff found out, that morning as well. So, I think it was clearly emotional for everyone, which I think, like I said, I think that says it all, really.
I'm seeing a comment there, Jonathan Ball. Are the club showing any sign of embarrassment, shame? Their managers just quit. I know, well, that's why Emma's on here, so the media are pressing. But I do feel that. I did feel like there was more of a PR spin straight away after, and it was, oh, well, it's not that bad, and Pogba had to shower, didn't get a shower, and it's all this sort of, we're not that bad kind of, the media are blowing it out of proportion. It's not as bad as it all looks, guys. That kind of positive. And then I'm so angry that she didn't get her last press conference on the Friday as well.
Yeah, I mean, what I found most interesting is that the quote, which I actually put in my article, which jumped out to me, was the quote from John, the director, in the official club statement of Casey Stoney's departure. So bearing in mind this went out very shortly after Tom Gary's exclusive in the Telegraph. Great work by Tom. And so bearing in mind none of the other media yet had time to, kind of write anything or react to it. And the club had already put in their statement a kind of a confirmation that they were still supporting the women's team. So when I read that, I thought, why would you essentially point out the fact that you're still supporting the women's team unless people were questioning it and the club were aware that people were questioning it? So that to me was almost like we're guilty, we better answer it response, which is always interesting when you see that in a club statement. So I think it's been a very difficult few weeks for the club, obviously, with the fan protests. Again, something that Casey alluded to in the press conferences, that it'd been a weird time. She sort of joked. So I think the club, it might just be in a case of the club sort of trying to burn fires before they were lit. But I certainly took interest in that particular line in the statement, put it that way.
I just want to jump in on this one. So Zoe's just been on the show, and she just asked, "Do you think that we'll take a dip in form next season whilst we rebuild?" I think so. I think it's definitely possible. I still think we've got a great start at 11. I think our start 11 probably won't change too much next season. Well, hopefully, anyway. That's what I'm hoping for. If Jackie goes in, that will be a massive blow. But obviously, there's no immediate signs of that. What are your guys' thoughts on that question?
Yeah, look, I put this in my piece. I think there's a seriously strong foundation there that's been set by Casey. I heard Natalie speaking about it before I jumped into the broadcast about players that we'll be expecting to leave. Personally, I think it will be probably the ones that, with respect, you would probably expect to leave anyway, in terms of trying to improve their... Wait until I get a rum in me and then I'll have a Scouse accent. Yeah, I think it'll be ones that you would expect to move on so that you can sort of improve squad depth. That's natural. That happens every summer. It's football. It's a business. Obviously, I've also put in the piece that I expect Tobin Heath and Kristen Press to leave. I didn't. I think I came on this show about 6 months ago and said that I thought that they would stay. I genuinely believed that at the time. I think Tobin's injury, kind of everything that's gone on, is perhaps factored into that. And I think the fact that Casey, for about 6 weeks straight, every time I've asked her, bless her, in press conferences, she said, still the discussions haven't happened. I think it's probably quite obvious there. But what I will say is that when I specifically asked about Jackie Gronin's future, she responded saying, Jackie Gronin, as far as I'm aware, is a Manchester United player next season. She will be here, which was quite different to her response about Lauren James, which was a bit more, I don't know what's going on. So I would take confidence from that if I was a fan, and I'd see that as perhaps a positive that Jackie hopefully is probably more likely to be staying. But like I say, I think there's strong foundations there. Manchester United finished 4th. They've got a decent enough player budget. There has been investment there, and I think that's the key. When I speak to people, I say the club have invested in the women's team. They've maybe not invested in the facilities to the same extent, but I think in terms of player budget and wages and squad recruitment, that kind of thing, they have shown investment. So, I think they just have to go that step further, because if they don't keep investing, that's when I think there's a danger of stagnation.
There's a comment above Zoe's, so I don't know if you can see it. It says Casey Stoney has been working on the next signings. You said that. I know I got a lot of questions about that. But do you think the manager or just the new manager will just accept that? What if the new manager doesn't want those players? Are you aware of the situation of a new manager? Are you aware when that might happen? I'm guessing if she tried to resign a couple of months before, as been reported, she would have been thinking, shit, let's get on it. But we all know with this club, it doesn't happen like that, does it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a tricky one. There's kind of a bit of a similar situation with Matt Beard going to Liverpool. We've seen a couple of their players sign contract extensions, and then you've kind of got a new manager coming in who might not want those players. It's always a weird situation. Again, I think that's pretty normal. And the fact that I think Casey has said that she basically worked on summer recruitment. She's spoken about plans for pre-season, getting players in early. So I think that in itself says that she was planning for the future and she didn't have any immediate plans to leave. I think a new manager coming in could potentially change the route of recruitment, sure. I think Casey probably may have already had conversations with people and say, look, I wanted you in, the club might not want you anymore. Be braced for that. Yeah. That happens. I've seen that happen. It happened this summer. It happened. I reported on it actually with as an example in the Championship with Melissa Johnson from Sheffield United. She was set to sign for Liverpool. Vicky Jepson left, and then that signing fell through. So this happens quite often in football. So it wouldn't surprise me if some of Casey's targets don't come. But then at the same time, the new manager might have different ideas. They might have different contacts. They might be able to bring in different players that Casey perhaps might not have been able to. So you just don't know.
I want to. I see a lot of names. Sorry, John. I see a lot of names. Seen it twice. Martin Home. He's been at Everton. He's been at Liverpool. He's with our devs. Do you think he might step up, or do you think what do you think about the staff? Then do you think the staff are secure, or do you think, as managers do, they're bringing a whole new team?
Personally, I think the staff will be pretty secure at Man United. I think the club are pretty pleased with the setup and people that they've got there. That's not to say that those people might not choose to move on. They might follow Casey. They might move elsewhere. I personally, I haven't heard anything on a new manager coming in or any candidates. Naturally, there's kind of whispers among the wider sort of women's football rumours.
That Leon manager, that's what I've heard the whispers of. I just say the names. I'm not going to his name.
I think the general consensus is I think people might think that there's a possibility that they might recruit from within. Obviously, Marty Ho would be the candidate for it if they do go down that line. Personally, I don't think that will be the case. I think United will look to Europe. I think they will recruit a manager that's got European experience, because the next obvious step is to make that step into the Champions League. So you need somebody who knows what it takes to compete at that level. KC, I think, absolutely would have achieved that with Manchester United. So, like I say, I've seen in some of the comments, I know that you guys will be really upset. It is obviously a worrying time for fans, but at the end of the day, KC is just one person in a big puzzle. Yes, that will have a huge knock-on effect, but there's still strong foundations there for Man United. They just need to act quickly, bring in a new manager, get recruitment sorted, and start preparing for next season. So, look, there's still lots to be positive for. Don't get too down about it.
Though, Emma is not known for acting quickly. That's what I will say. I've supported this club, and especially since the Glazers have come in, I've seen Amy Webb. It's the same issues with the men's team. Is investing in players. We see it when we're outside of this is the men's team now, when the men's are outside of the Champions League, Di Maria, this one, Falcao, put all that money in. But then when Jose came second, and listen, I'm not saying Jose is the main man, but he wanted Harry Maguire and he didn't get him. Why? And the ESL says it all for me, sets out their ambitions, shows what they want. They've come out, they've said, sorry, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. But, Ian Sterling from Must, he just sort of says, the only time that they've talked is when they're saying sorry for ESL or Project Big Picture. For me, that's why you're seeing these protests. And I know it might not help her or might not help this woman, but I don't think the protests should stop. And, I think they should continue. But that's for a different thing. But it's
no, and I appreciate your frustrations, and that was why. Partly one of the reasons why I wanted to come on the show was to hear your thoughts on it. And also partly one of the reasons why I wrote the piece was because I think I finished with the bottom line of, or at least certainly in the second bottom line, about supporters urging the club to act quickly. So hopefully I've given across the right message there from you guys, but I get the impression that you guys want that speed, you want the club to act quickly. So obviously I can't offer my opinion on anything to do with that, but I certainly understand your frustrations. And like I say, I think in order to move forward, that is what's needed. So I agree with you in that sense.
I'm going to put one thing. Sorry, John, I know you're the only two people that I could ever embrace like I have done with Casey. Maybe three. Martin, because I know him. Charlotte Healy from within. What she's done with the devs. Under 21 team, second to none. Absolutely, she's done it like Casey. If anyone ever sees the under 21s, if they start to show them, she has built that from nothing to something. They're undefeated in the league this year. COVID season, bringing in under 16s, having injuries. She's second to none. And then obviously my favourite, second favourite to Casey. I just want to know your thoughts, and I know we talked about it personally, but it is a name that a lot of fans talk about, and maybe it's because I've put a name out so much, and people actually do want her, and I feel like she's cut from the same cloth. She's the kind of, she's got that passion. She would tell you, she'd tell me, it would blow up. Carla Ward,
yeah.
Yeah, man. She's the only one, and I tweeted it straight away, like, boom, I'm ready now. Come home.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got nothing but admiration for the work that Carla's done. I think she's a fantastic young English coach. She's a proper, man manager or female manager, whatever the term is. She knows how to get the best out of players. My only thing is, as I said to you, by the way, I think if she did go for the job, if she did get the job, I think she would do well in it. But look, I think we're quick to forget that she is early on in her development as a coach and a manager. Making that step up, from Sheffield United to WSL this season was already a big step up. It's taken a lot out of her this year. That's obviously why she's handed in her resignation at Birmingham. She's learned a hell of a lot. She's matured a hell of a lot. But it's a whole other gear again, to go to a club like Manchester United with not only expectation, but the pressure. And like I say, for me, I personally think the club needs to be getting someone who's got European experience. And Carla's only had 1 year in the WSL. That's nothing. That's nothing like having European experience. That's nothing like competing with those top teams. It's nothing like having, kind of world-class American players or top internationals in your squad. Having to manage that. Like, how do you sort of leave those kind of players on the bench? But these are all things that Carla hasn't dealt with. And like I say, it's not that I don't think she's capable of doing it. I certainly think she is. I've told her that myself. I think she will be an excellent manager, and she's already proven that. But I think it would be a shame for people to have the same level of expectation with Carla at a club like Manchester United as what they've had previously, because I'd hate to see somebody with that potential kind of rushed into a role that she is perhaps she is, and I'm sure she'll say this herself, on paper, too inexperienced for. I also don't think Manchester United would go for somebody who isn't experienced enough. But I'd like to think that they would go for somebody more experienced. So, look, it would be amazing if she got it. But yeah, look, I think the club needs to get somebody with European experience.
Maybe like she's one move away. Maybe if she goes to a middle-sized club, does well, and then maybe we'll be looked at. Maybe that's a way for that to happen. There's people in the comments when we was talking about promoting from within. Say Michael Carrick down there, Nicky Butt, Neil Ryan, Neil Woods. For me, what do they know about women's football? So for me, I think that would be a massive mistake, because it would only be Healy. Because she knows it. She knows women's football. She's the under 21 women's manager. So if you were going to promote from within, it would be Martin Ho or Charlotte Healy. That's the. I get where people are coming from. City do it. I mean, and what's your opinion then, Emma? City do it. City bring in their under 18s. That's what Gareth Taylor. He had no experience. So, someone like McKenna, who has managed the thing, been assistant to Ollie, Kieran McKenna, won the under 18s, and then was assistant to Ollie. Do you think United will go? I know you've said they're going to go European, but City do it with great success. What's your thoughts on that kind of way that they do it? Sorry, John, if I've stole your question.
No, I think, like you say, City have been a perfect example. And actually, I think if you look back to most coaches in the WSL, they would have had some kind of experience in men's football, certainly the male coaches, whether that be academy, or first team, or a backroom staff role. Quite a lot of coaches have experience. And actually, I think there's elements of the men's game which you can bring into the women's game. Certainly, things like the technical side from interviews that I've had recently, which I can't say. Certainly, City players are quite complimentary of, Gareth Taylor's tactical information and sort of that side of it that he's brought to the Man City team. So I think there's elements that they can bring. So I know John didn't seem too big on the idea, but personally, I've got absolutely nothing against bringing in people from the men's side. I think Michael Carrick would actually be a brilliant coach in the women's game. Do I think he's the right person for Manchester United? No. But I think you can't look past those options. And if the club have got people that are suitable for the role, then I'm sure they would always look to kind of, you know, recruit within, because that helps the club and it helps the development of their own coaches. But like I say, for me personally, I think Manchester United will, I think they'll look to Europe. But that's not based on anything I've been told so far. Like I've said, I've been quite honest. I've not heard anything. That's just what I think will happen.
Just give me 2 seconds, Natalie. So on that, so I wouldn't mind Carrick being involved with the women's team, but I just think that I wouldn't want him to now go straight in and take Casey's spot. I think he needs to come into the women's game first and then do it that way. That's my only thoughts on that. There's like 75 people watching still. So there's been constantly 75 people watching for like 2 hours. So thank you very much. We've still got another 10, 15 minutes left. I know Ben's putting some Twitter posts out and asking you guys to keep on bombarding Emma with some questions. So feel free for the last 10, 15 minutes.
I've seen a comment just saying from Blessing, just how you always put you always put our thoughts through first. And I just want to big that up. But listen, abroad's winning as well. So abroad, people want a manager from abroad more than with WS. So probably what you're saying, the backing up, we want European experience. I think, that is right. The only reason I do say Wardy is because that's where Wardy sits in my life, in my heart. So like I said, it's going to be a while. Even if some big fancy manager comes in from abroad, it's not my gaffer in a way. And that's what the sadness of it is.
Yeah,
but
I think one thing I will say is that Carla Ward has shown this season that players want to play for her. Players will die for her. So, like I say, if she did, show an interest in the role, was offered it, got it, I would love to see what she would do at Manchester United. I would be so interested to see what she could do at a club that has that kind of pressure, expectation, all of the works. But like I say, I think personally, like just give her a little bit of time, give her that middle step, and then
let her off.
I
could just imagine. But anyway, that's. I'm going into my emotions here. The one thing I want to just ask now, everyone's saying so the signings are all coming in, and we want a manager from abroad with European experience. That'll still probably make the signings happy. The only one that I know of is, and it's one that I was talking about back in January, and I'll probably put it to you, Emma, Boa Risa. As far as I'm aware, long ago that was done. And like she says, she's done all the deals. I mean, a name that we talked about when you came on in January was Eva Navarro, but she's done her ACL, unfortunately. But as far as I was aware, there was an offer on the table from us, and it was looking really close. I mean, we had all names like Bunny and all that, but that was Champions League names, Bunny, Engen. Obviously, she said that the names haven't changed since the Champions League. What do you know, Emma? Do you think the names have changed? Do you think we're looking at that step down from, well, we obviously are. We're looking at Bunny Shaw, but I don't know who the step down is from Bunny Shaw, but like it has to be that just one step down, doesn't it? But it still has to be sort of as good as Russo or even better than Russo. It has to be better than Jane Ross. We're hearing about Siggy leaving. Okay, that's someone we expected, and that's her boot at the back there. I love the girl, but it's someone who I expected. So who do you think's going to come in? What caliber? What? If you could just say notes, I know you don't know, but what names would you maybe expect like Casey to be signing or?
I mean, I was honest with you at the time. Those names that you mentioned to me were only rumours. I've chased them up and not had anything confirmed. So I as far as I was aware, I didn't think that they were coming. Emma, do you drink coffee? No. I drink tea and rum, lots of rum. No, in terms of names, I can't really give you any names. I think I do agree. I think the fact that a lack of Champions League qualification naturally means that you are looking at different targets. All we have to see this season was, the players that certainly Man City were getting in from the USA. All of them said they wanted Champions League football. Chloe Kelly's move from Everton to City was all about Champions League football. She was open about that. I think I led on that in my interview with her. Champions League football has a massive draw for players. And like I say, if Everton are paying players more money than they are at Manchester United, if Arsenal are paying more money than they are at Manchester United, and both of them aren't in the Champions League. Obviously Arsenal are, but like, you know, if they didn't make the cut, then that would obviously have had an impact, because if you got one club at the same level as another, and one's paying more, then you know, you might go there. But then also, again, like you say, when you're looking at the best young talent in the country, people question why Niamh Charles moved to Chelsea last summer. Those kind of clubs, they've got the money, they've got the investment, they've got the squad depth, because they're competing in the Champions League. So therefore, players that aren't playing week in, week out in the WSL, they are going to get game time, because they're going to have to rotate. So when you are in less competitions, then you're going to have less game time if you're, you know, a fringe player. So therefore, it's harder to improve the squad. You know, you might be able to improve the starting 11, but you're not going to please people if they're going to be on the bench week in, week out. So I do think it changes, you know, targets, and I do think it has an impact on recruitment, definitely.
Quick one I've seen from Vincent just above. What kind of, do you think it's going to depend on the price we can get for LJ? I mean, obviously, I've seen things about they're going to be like wanting a world record transfer, and as they should, you know, she's under contract. Obviously, she's going to go anyway. But do you think like sell to buy? I know it's a bigger deal in the men's game because you do get fees, but obviously LJ, they're going to be putting a lot of money in. So do you think that money is going to come all the way back in to then buy the players, or to then whatever? Yeah,
it's a really good question. I think you would hope so, wouldn't you? You would hope that the club would be asking for a fee. That's something which I think has started to change in the last 2 years or so in women's football. Obviously, Chelsea were at the forefront with that, with their record signing of Frank Kirby like a couple of years ago. So Chelsea aren't afraid to spend money. They obviously went out and brought Pernille Harder for the world record fee last year. So if they want Lauren James in, if Emma Hayes wants Lauren James, Chelsea will give her Lauren James. So Man United will know that, and if they're smart, they'll be asking for a decent fee. And like I say, I think all that you hope is that fee goes directly into the women's team, and that can go back out there. And to be honest, I think it will. And then you also have to take into consideration that there's going to be money filtered down from the broadcast deal as well. And a club like Man United, while I mentioned earlier the badge and the brand wasn't everything in terms of player recruitment, the badge and the brand probably is everything in terms of TV. So Man United might benefit from that, from the broadcast deal. So I think that there's definitely promising signs in terms of money coming in. It's just how much and what percentage of that is filtered directly back into the women's team specifically that I think is the key.
Meadow, that's that one. Imagine Beth Mead. I don't know, John Hume, big Beth Mead fan, and that, not gonna lie, that is a rumor that I've heard. I've heard that Daniel van der Donk is going to Lyon. I've heard Roloff, that's how you say it, from Wolfsburg going to Lyon. These are like the top players. These are the players that, you know, I mean, but then Emma, the way I look at it as well, though, I spoke to Molly a bit about, well, just, I don't want to name drop, but you would think, you know, for me, I think we got the best American players. I know you said Champions League, Sam and Rose, but for me, no, Tobin and Kristen, they were the best. I know they're a bit older, and I know Mewis is a bit younger. So it is there. And obviously, I think they've just potentially, I've seen a question earlier, way up, that said, you know, with how it's gone with Casey and then obviously all this, I mean, that was the base. That was, you could have gone on and done something great. And I know there's talks about the wages are so different from them and the rest. And yeah, maybe it didn't help, but you had Champions League players there playing that weren't even in the Champions League. And I think that's probably an influence on them staying, the fact that we didn't get it. But I think Carrington and the way they were treated there, that's probably having an even bigger influence, because you had the feeling that they were going to stay. I had the feeling they were going to stay. And then suddenly after Christmas, boom, and it's all this pitch foolishness.
Well, I think this is kind of what I was alluding to before in terms of Casey Stoney herself being a sell. Tobin and Kristen were very strong on this, that they wanted to come and play for Casey. So when I said before that there's still strong foundations at the club, I genuinely believe that. But it's going to be interesting to see the caliber of players that are brought in when you haven't got somebody like Casey Stoney as a pull. Everyone wants to play for Casey Stoney. You know, she's one of the most respected people in football, not just women's football, but in football full stop. So when she goes, naturally, players abroad, you know, it's going to be harder to bring them in without Champions League football. I agree with what you're saying, Nat. I think, you know, and I think that was why it got so much traction, was when United brought in these USA stars, it was like, whoa. But I think at the time, and this is why I think Casey was perhaps so disappointed, you know, she described it as a failure herself. The fact that United didn't get Champions League football was because perhaps she knew from day one that there was a high chance that she might only have Kristen and Tobin for 1 year, and they had to make the most of it and capitalise on it. And, you know, they weren't able to do that because they had loads of injuries. They drew too many games. They weren't clinical enough in certain games. And they obviously had to factor in, you know, COVID as well. So it just didn't happen this season. And like I say, only time will tell, I guess, what the knock-on effects of not qualifying for the Champions League will be.
I can see a lot of questions, Jill Ellis, and I want to know your opinion on her, if you think she would be a good manager. But what do you think players leaving Arsenal, not just United? I'm seeing, you know, they're having troubles and they're in the Champions League. So next season, where do you see Man United? I know this might not be the wrap-up, but where do you see us? What do you see for us?
Like I say, it's so difficult, isn't it? Because you don't know what manager's coming in. You don't know how much Casey's resignation is, I guess, will give a kick at the backside to the club, because they, you know, it could be the thing that they need, and they go, you know what, let's step it up a gear. You don't know what the situation is going to be like in terms of players coming in from abroad. There's all sorts of factors in now in terms of like things like Brexit. That's making transfers hard. Don't even ask me how, because I don't understand the whole thing. It's so confusing. And then obviously this season was a little bit different with the USA players because of the fact that their league was, you know, disrupted by COVID. So there might be less bigger players going to the top clubs, and therefore it might even out a little bit in terms of that battle for the top 3, 4, 5, you know, 5 kind of places in the top half. So it is really difficult to call. And that, like, I know I've just kind of avoided your question, but like I say, until the new manager comes in, like, I don't think I can answer that question, because I genuinely don't know until the new manager comes in and until you see what kind of players are going to be coming to Man United.
What I will say is, with Casey, I'm not trying to say this is what it would have been, but if we had Casey, if we were in Carrington or whatever, redeveloped this next season, for me, I saw it as winning the league. For me, I think we were so close to it, I could taste it, you know. Players were talking about it. We were talking about it. And then even me and John, we sort of said, and then it just all went wrong. And it was that point in the Christmas, the winter pitches, all that kind of rubbish happened. And that's where we lost it. And I think for me as well, it was a game. It was Reading, but it was the Chelsea game when they conceded that goal. And Tobin was so big for us. If Tobin was even played until February, I think it would have been different. And
I actually think Alicia Russo's injury was probably the worst one that you had.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying about Tobin and her impact, but I think Russo was brought in to be that, to kind of be that next step, to take you that next step further and add that squad depth, which, like I said, I don't think United had before, and that's what the top teams need. And I think her injury was probably the biggest blow. Because I think she came back, didn't she? She was due to come back earlier, but then she had a setback again. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens next season. But all I will say is that I think United exceeded expectations at the first half of the season. I don't think they were ever in the running for the title initially. The plan was always to just get into Champions League football naturally because of the position that they put themselves in. I remember people were sort of questioning me and others at the time, saying, why are you talking about them being title contenders? I was like, because they played themselves into that position. And as soon as you get yourself into that position, expectations naturally and like as it should be rise. So they did, which kind of makes the drop off even worse, is that, you know, they kind of got to that point. But if they had secured Champions League football, then that would have been a successful season. It absolutely would have been a successful season. So the fact that they just missed out on that, yes, it wasn't the season that Casey had hoped for. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's a failure because of everything that they've had to deal with, but that was the natural step. So that has to be the aim next season, is to get into the Champions League football.
What I will say though as well, there was a time, and she did it with Maria. Whatever we think of Maria, she brought her in. But I think for me, the player that we should have brought in, and she had, I don't know whether it's whether the club didn't or she didn't or whatever, but the opportunity was there to bring in Borarisa, who might be coming in now. And whether it was COVID stopped her, I don't know. There's all this talk of I wanted to go, but I don't know whether she could have flew out from North. I don't know. I just think there was just little, that's it, fine margins, that little fine margin of bringing her in and having her with, when Hayley Ladd wasn't playing as much, her with Jackie and Stoney and Katie, that would have been a difference as well. I agree with the Russo thing, but I just think that there was certain points in certain games, and I just feel like then that's when we started to go down. I think we were doing well. Unfortunately, she went in October, but I think we were doing well without her. And then obviously January and all that rubbish happened. But John, I'll let you.
You let me wrap up now. I'll let you talk there, Nat, because obviously a lot of things that you were saying was kind of discussing before the show anyway, and it's things that we always discuss. But I will wrap up because it has been 2 hours and we've took up enough of Emma's time. But thank you very much for coming on, Emma. You're always there at the right times, whether it be on Twitter or even now. You were here for Dubai Gate, which was one of our biggest ever shows. We had over 600 people watch that show back in early January, I think it was. I'm sure this is going to be another big show now. For anybody who doesn't know Emma, where can people find you on Twitter?
EM_Sandy with a Y. I need to work on that, but yeah, obviously, hopefully you can see enough of my work on the BBC Sport website. I try and get as much women's football content on there as possible. So hopefully you'll see more over the next week or so.
Please follow. We've constantly had over 70 people watching throughout the whole show. We peaked up to like 85, 90 times as well. So thank you very much. Again, that's one of our biggest ones as well. We've done like 58 shows now, and this has probably been in one of our top 5. Without even promoting it either, because we didn't realise everyone was going to be joining us until late. So yeah, thank you again, Emma. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Loads of new people. So if you are new, please follow us on Twitter. Please subscribe to our 2 channels. We've got a separate women's channel as well, which will be launched tomorrow. Natalie, final word with yourself, mate.
Yeah, get on the new women's channel. We're going to have Emma back on, so hopefully we'll have a new manager. We'll have new signings. We're going to have Rich Lafferty on, big women's journalist. We're going to have Mia Eriksson from Sweden, so we're going to talk about Swedish leagues and how they affect, and we're going to have loads of big names on. So get on the new channel. It's at the top of the link, highlighted. So if you're on the live chat, definitely click on that. We need all subscribers. We've got about 100 on there, but if you want these good shows, you're all tuning in. Get on our new women's channel dedicated solely for the women. I want to shout out Ben, who's really backed us with it, because All for United is a big United channel. So if I want All for United Women football channel, it's going to be good. And we're just going to keep doing content and keep saying it and keep promoting Emma, keep promoting us, get behind, And like I said at the start, the one thing that's changed my mind from I'm not going to go again to I'm going is just speaking to them players and seeing them, and they need the support. No matter what the club have done to them or done to Casey, we know that about them. That's why we're protesting. But let's keep the support behind the girls, keep coming. And even if you don't go Old Trafford, come and support the girls because they need it.
Thank you, Natalie. And we shall see you again very soon.
Thanks, guys.